Hello, I'm Kevin Robinson, Director of Athletics and Vice President at the Catholic University of America. Please enjoy this episode of Cardinal Perspectives, a series where we share in-depth conversations with alumni, students, faculty, and staff of Catholic University. Today, we're fortunate to feature our very own head football coach, Mike Gutelius, or Coach Gut as he's known, who speaks along with Neil Donahue, Senior Director of Advancement for Athletics, and Huey Bodger, Assistant Director of Alumni Affinity Programming. Mike played offensive line at Catholic University. After graduating from CUA in 1992 with a major in politics and a minor in philosophy, Mike returned to Catholic as an assistant coach for the 92-93 season. He went on to obtain his master's degree in education before diving into a long and successful career, holding positions such as defensive ends coach, assistant head coach, and defensive coordinator at various universities. He returned to Catholic University as the Vincent and Ellen Sika endowed head coach in 2017 and finished that season with a 5-5 record, including a mark of 3-4 in the team's inaugural season in the New England's Women's and Men's Conference. In 2024, Mike was diagnosed with brain cancer. Despite receiving treatments at Duke University in North Carolina, Gutelius was in the box or on the sideline for 7 of the team's games that season. Due to the resolve shown in tough circumstances by both team and coaching staff, Gutelius and the rest of the staff earned Landmark Coaching Staff of the Year honors. Let's dive into the conversation.
Hi, we're back with Cardinal Perspectives. My name is Huey Bodger. Today we're joined by Neil Donahue and Coach Gut, head football coach at Catholic University. We're going to delve into Coach Gut's story while he's been at the university. Coach Gut, we just want to start off. Can you tell us a little bit about your story? You're an alum and now you're coaching. Could you tell us about how you've come to build a career here at Catholic University?
Yeah, I came here really because of football and it being Catholic U. Growing up as a Catholic kid, it was something special to land here. And the football program was doing pretty well, and it was an incredible thing to land and look at the commitment to getting better at football matched the commitment to get good grades and get a great degree. And what came here to study was politics, international studies, and really was working on the Soviet Union. And then while I was early here, the Soviet Union went away and became Russia again. Yeah. And so I think I went from maybe being a political studies major to a possible history teacher. But that was something that changed. And the football program was working hard to climb up, and I think I really enjoyed doing that. And then had an injury my senior year, which pushed me off the field a little bit, and I got into the press box and realized, hey, this is pretty good. I like doing this, and so that's where I landed and stayed in it and kept battling to learn about coaching football, and so much of it matched learning about other things at Catholic University, that were based on how do you operate as yourself and what's your commitment.
Yeah. So, Coach, in all the years you've been here as a player and now as a coach, what are you most proud of?
Well, I think what I'm most proud of is to have made the decision to come to a place that will help me grow as much as it does in the competition of football, But I think, if you cut it down a little bit, I was proud of myself as a player. I worked really hard here. I'm not, I played guard, and then they moved me to tackle after an injury and an O-lineman, and I'm not O-line size, but I thought that I was going to play hard enough to fight for it, and that was something going on, especially, my first year here, Catholic was 8-2. Fred O'Connor was the head coach. There's a guy who coached in the NFL before coming back here. And Coach O'Connor was something, and we moved on to Coach Novak, some other coaches we went on, and in the 90s, Catholic was great as I started moving around coaching. But as a player, it was maybe riding on the bus now as I'm an older guy looking back on it with other players and some of the goofy stuff we talked about and eating out as the team and those things. Like I look back, not so much on the field, although there's some good stuff about knocking people down and doing that and blocking, and that's great. But really, what I get excited about is the relationship I built with the guys who were there with me and our commitment. And and that's, as a coach now, that's what I I want our guys to make sure they understand too of that this is what we do as a team, and we're going to have to work together. And I go back to probably the one that hits me the hardest is the second game here as a head coach. And we were playing a really good squad. We were playing Utica here at home, and we beat them. And that was, our first year. I'm not sure. And Utica's gone on and been a playoff team, and they've done some. I mean, but we got them. Mm-hmm. And I looked to God for that one, partly because my father, who's passed on, was at that game. And the players, we broke down, and then I didn't say it, but they decided to all walk and shake my dad's hand, because he was basically in a chair, had taken a wheelchair around, and he was sitting in a chair off the side, and they all went, shook his hand, and they gave him a football, and that was something, And as a player, to look at the team, we did a lot of things together, but then as a coach, to get that convinced me that this is the right place, and I'm going to continue to work my tail off to help us keep lifting up. But that moment was something. It was a great win. Mm-hmm. Now take that, but to see the way these guys were already committed to connecting and who was important. And my dad got that ball, and he's a guy that had played college football, but he was Canadian, so he played Canadian football up there at where he went to school. But he was proud of me, and I was proud of the team, and that was a good connection.
Yeah. Wow.
What would you say is the most important lesson that you hope all of your players take with them when they graduate?
Well, the football coach in me wants them to remember just getting here and working their tails off and doing that, but it's bigger than that. And as I've grown through coaching and doing it longer and longer, I think what I've come to a point where while they're playing, if they learn that they're number 2 and the team's number 1, then I think they're getting prepared for what's next in their lives. And I want these guys to graduate with a great degree, but then to look back on football as what trained them, what got them ready to work hard, and where they are in their life, and and being part of their family, where their family's number 1, they're number 2. And I think being the Catholic University of America, it's good for our guys to, they can move this to the other bigger picture of, God is number 1, I'm number 2. And all of these things coming together can come from football as sort of the starting block for that. Mm-hmm. And they go through their lives knowing that they're there to help and to push to something bigger than them.
Yeah. And you've never really shied away from your faith. You've lived it out loud. Could you talk about the importance of that and how you've shown who you are and who the university is, and you've combined the two at the university?
Yeah, and thank you for saying that. It's been it's been wonderful to be back at the Catholic University of America after playing here and then coaching around the country and being at different spots. Some wonderful schools, but Methodist or different levels, of believing in God, and to be back at the Catholic University of America has been something that I am so glad to be in, and to work with our guys on making sure that they understand that yes, they're here to play football, yes, they're here to get education, but really they need to say God is first. And to learn about why that's important and how they're going to do it in the rest of their lives. And now that I'm a little bit older and my children are either in college or out, I look back in a different way than I did probably when I got here. And I was 19 and was here, and it was wonderful. But at the same time, I look back now and I'm like, I want these guys to know and understand that they're here and they're open to their relationship and with Jesus, and how does that work? Mm-hmm. How does that, what does that do? What does that train them for, so that they can say, what am I supposed to do? Mm-hmm. What am I supposed to do? What does God want me to do? Because that's a tough thing to ask. Yeah. And people are like, oh no, that's a tough thing to ask if you really mean it. What does God want me to do? Mm-hmm. And at this place, I'm spoiled as the coach. I'm like, let's get some touchdowns and some wins, and God will talk to us better.
Yeah.
That's not true, but I think we should keep on trying it.
Right.
But here we are with this group of guys who chose the Catholic University of America, and so we have a chance to keep working with them on what's next. What's next? What should I do to take my next step towards God?
Well, we're all alums. I'm sure we all have a very good answer to this next question. But what do you think makes Catholic U unique? And I want you to answer this as there's a prospective recruit watching this when it comes out.
Right. Yeah. I think what makes us unique is that we look at what are we going to study here? What are we going to do? And there's a lot of religious schools are going to lay it out, but we are the Catholic University of America, and that means that some things are going to get open to them while they're here. And I think the number of priests who are here studying, they're working on, a lot of them are here working on a master's or something. Some of them are just guys are not a priest yet, and they're starting undergrad, and we're going through that. So I think that openness to what God wants us to do is different about Catholic U. But then we, athletically, we tie that to it and say we can really go out and fight for wins and do all that stuff and not lose what God wants from us. And so how does that go together, and how do we open ourselves to what he's teaching us and where we're at, what we're learning, and that at Catholic University, we're going to push people right to the edge. And I see this with our guys when they come and talk to me about, gosh, academically, this one's pushing me, this one's hard, this one, and they'll talk about, I'm fighting for this degree and I'm working on it and I was right at the edge. And then my professor joined me and said, here's what we're hitting. Here's where you're at. And I think Catholic U and all the places that I've worked has been fantastic about walking people right to the edge and then saying, we're here to help now. And it's getting a commitment from the guys. And of course it's football team, so I'm working more with the guys. It's getting a commitment from them to get to that hard point where not only is the professor helping them, but also, being open to God and what he's asking them to do is hard, but it will take you a whole nother level.
Yeah. So, Coach, take us back to last year and lead up to the 24 season. Can you talk about, what you were going through and lead up right before the season?
Yeah, it was a crazy summer because, and during that time of June and leading into July, I spent a lot of time getting the coaching books right and getting ready to meet with our coaches about how is this season going to go, what is different this year, what do we need to work on, what are our thoughts for the team. And at the end of June, this past summer, I had a weird day, and my wife looked at me and said, we need to go to the hospital. And I said, okay, which, would not normally come out. Right. And so she drove me to the hospital, and on the way, I passed out and had some crazy episodes. They got me in the hospital, and they checked me for many things, and it wasn't until another doctor came in and was looking at some of the film that they had taken, and he said, oh, this looks like a brain tumor. And he was a wonderful doc. He went in and took that brain tumor out, but he didn't know it was he thought he was taking out the whole tumor, and when he looked in there, he said, this is now a biopsy, not a tumor removal. So he took a piece out, and it was a biopsy. And so then it came back that I had glioblastoma, and it's a cancer at the level I had it that they tell you they can't cure it, but they want to work with you on it. And so the next step for me was to find where it was going, and I know there's some fantastic places, especially right around here in this area, but I was able to get connected to Duke University, and they went in and have done some great work on me. And one of the things is I'm the fourth person in a challenge that they're doing down there for the head work, here's a football coach talking about head work, but I'm getting a tremendous amount of help in what's next, and they're working on me, but I'm able to come back and coach the squad. Now, going back to what you asked, the season was crazy because that operation happened at the end of training camp when I had just been at training camp following the the biopsy. And then after training camp, I had to get the tumor removed. And so they went in and did that surgery, and I missed our first game, which was really hard, but I was able to watch it. It was 7 days after surgery. And then after that, I was able to come to our next couple games at home and get back into things. And then I had to and once I was physically or getting around, I had to go back and get a little more treatment. And that's the way it works when I was getting treated. And so I had to go back and go through, the radiation and the chemotherapy. And I got started on that. It was really pushing me. But the funniest thing was when I said, well, do you need me on the weekends? And they said, no, you can go back and coach. And they called me coach. They said, Coach, you can go back and be there on Saturday. And I was like, this is great. With where football is now online and, you use Huddle and we can watch this video, I was calling, here I am down getting work on my head at Duke, and I'm calling our coaches to review practice from the day before and talk about things. And then I was able to make the games. There was two away games that were just kind of far I couldn't get to. But other than that, I was so proud of how we were fighting as a team that I wanted to make sure I was fighting as a coach. And I was able to get back for that last game. Well, the game before that I was here for, but then the last game I was at the week of practice, and we traveled on a bus to go play an opponent. We go play Juniata, and I rode on the bus with the team like the way I always did. And we played well that game, and it was a good one. But I think for me, what was really good was being with the team and eating with the team and watching the guys still committed to doing what we had taught them to do. And that was one of the deepest moments I had. And I have to believe that came from, that was stronger because of their relationship with God. And that was something for me. So that's a long answer about it all, about that process. But man, it has brought me to a spot of, I think I need to keep working, on where I'm at with God, but to watch the way these players were able to stay on top and push it. And I was getting text after text from guys, and man, what a way to be ready to go and coach football. But bigger than that, what a way to be ready to be a person that God is still keeping here.
To go more into that same story, we all know how strong our community is at Catholic. Do you want to touch a bit on some of the help you've received from the Catholic and Catholic youth football community since last summer?
Yeah, it's been just like amazing, and made me go like, this is what being Catholic is. And stuff. My son, who graduated from here last spring, and he gets a job down in North Carolina, 15 miles from Duke, where I was going to go to the doctor. And I stayed multiple times at his house, or his apartment. I just drive down there and pop in and stay with him, and he'd hold me up. And at one point, he kind of was like, Dad, I know why I got a job down here. And I got the same kind of message from some of the players. They're like, Coach, you're going to get after this because, for different things. And just the level that some of these guys came back about where they were in their relationship with Jesus, and that they wanted to make sure I knew that they were talking to him, to God, and to Mary about, asking her to step forward and talk to Jesus about things. And it got to the point where when I knew how many people were praying for me and what I'm fighting through, there was a moment or two where I realized, like, man, there's a lot of prayer going on. I was like, I got to clean this up and make sure I'm living right, because the amount of prayers going to God about where I was at and what I was fighting, I'm kind of laughing about it now, but there was moments where I cried, because of the number of people who were actively praying to God for me in what I was going through. And that is something, I probably early on in coaching, I prayed on Fridays for how we were going to play on Saturday, and I remember before my big surgery down at Duke, I said, hey, can we stop and pray for a second before you operate? And they did. And they were quiet, and they were like looking at me, and I just felt more, and I wound up getting blessed here before I left, before the surgery, and Father, put his hands on my head and continued to pray. And he took them off after that, but I felt something on my head for well over a minute after he prayed for me. And, to go through that level and to say that this is, again, no matter what happens, I've kind of looked towards the right direction. And I can't, I can't say, I mean, don't get me wrong, the surgeons did a wonderful job and this was great and all that, but to have those prayers really makes me feel like what I believe is right there.
Amazing.
Coach, you set the ultimate example. Having played for you, and you give me the opportunity to coach on your staff, getting to see everything you've done at this university, you've set the ultimate example, and especially for the players. I remember getting in the season last year and not being sure, how to manage the situation, but then thinking about how hard you were fighting throughout the whole season. You've set the ultimate example for everyone in the Catholic University family, and you had a great story, Coach.
Oh, man. Thank you. And I don't know, it's not me. It's just looking at the team and knowing that these guys were still, the number of guys that let me know, actually it was one of the moms of the players at one of the games. She said, "Hey, do you know how often that these guys are praying the rosary for you on Friday?" And I said, "They're not telling me." And she goes, "Well, they don't want to, ruin it." But to know that our players were doing that, that's awesome, and that kind of stuff. And then to know that guys like you were coming to practice and you were picking up the pieces that I couldn't handle, and you were leading our guys to the next step, more than just football, about what's their next step in life. And to see these guys getting ready to graduate, that's where we're time-wise, what I'm at right now is watching this class, and to just bump into them occasionally on campus as they're getting ready and to, talk to them for a few minutes. And the first thing I have to tell them is thank you. Because I know they went to bat for me hard, and they worked hard here to try and push things forward. And I know a lot of what's happened to me and what I'm continuing to do, football-wise, is not really football. It's again going back to that 2-to-1. I'm second, this team's number one, and whether I'm here or not, this place has guys that know that and are working for it, and they're looking at bigger picture. And at year one, you're playing defensive line and now coaching them, and I'm pretty lucky for that. But to know where this program is and where we're heading is because the commitment that we're getting from guys about football, but more about who they are and who God wants them to be. And that, man, that's going to get me back working hard.
Well, before we move on, I just want to say, Coach, how much of an inspiration you are to everyone in this building, across campus, and everyone who's touched foot on a football field here at Catholic. It's truly amazing to see you fight and come in every day and walk recruits through the building with a smile on your face, and you're an inspiration, so thank you. Let's look forward. Let's talk football.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the fall, some exciting things happening. I hear there's plans to upgrade the 40-year-old locker room that we're adjacent to right now. Can you talk me through that and where we are and what the plan is there?
Yeah, I think, the great thing is to note the number of people here who realize that where football is about the team being able to spend time together and get ready together and get ready to take the field together. And, the way this locker room was built in a great building was more when football was, let's get changed and just head out to the field. And now, the football team, because of different classes and whether they're an engineer or a nursing major or, back where I was in politics, they don't get as much time together as when they can get to the locker room and now in different football setups and work. And so I think that's looking at some of the drawings we've got coming and what's going to be built for us. is going to get these guys to a point where, one, we thank those who helped us previously, but also the team can be together in a true locker room, a true pregame room in a setting that can be high level, and the guys will get ready to go out and play where they should play and how hard they should play. Because I think they're going to feel like people care about us. People want us to have this environment. And so what we're doing with the locker room of making sure they have good-sized lockers, and it's going to get opened up, and some of the walls are going to get removed, and the angles are going to be great. I mean, it's going to be awesome,
Yeah.
and I'm ready for it as a coach, but I have to make sure I'm not mad as a player, because I go back to the locker that I had when I was here. It's still in there.
Yep.
So
In fact, we originally wanted to do this in the locker room, but it's in such bad shape
Yeah.
that we couldn't. We're here in the weight room now. So
Yeah.
that's great. What's the progress on the locker room? So when is it anticipated to open? And is it going to be a football-specific space?
Yeah, it will be a football-specific space, because we have to be, we have a larger number of people who are committed to the team, and I want to make sure they all have a space to be together. And so I think we're pushing hard on how is that going to work, and what is the construction going to look like, and when can it happen. I think we can have that locker room ready to go for 2026 season, and when we get started on it is going to be making sure that we have what we need. And that's not just the drawings and the fittings and things like that, but that's also getting people to Catholic University to support what we're doing, because they want, and I think there's a lot out there. We just have to make sure that everybody understands that for a new locker room like that, we have to get a great commitment to some people who are on the outside, and guys who, they'll probably feel like I do about where was my locker.
Sure.
And that's gone now. But I think everybody understands what the commitment is in this level for football, and what do you need. And if we want to move forward, let's make sure that we offer a room where these guys can push harder together and be, the team, the Cardinals.
Yeah.
And they're together.
Yeah. Outstanding.
One more for you, Coach. If you have all of the Catholic University community right here, you got all the friends of the program, what would you tell someone who wants to support either that project or the program generally?
Well, what I want to tell them is to help us.
Yeah.
And I think, there's a lot of, again, it's football, there's a lot of guys that graduated from Catholic U, and there's some that are just so connected, and they've given so much, and they keep going. And I think we need to grow that group together, and we're working on that for football right now. The Gridiron Club is an area that we're really pushing to get consistent help at a certain level, so that football can take the step, because, that's the one thing with college football, and I don't, whether it's Ohio State or the Catholic University of America, there is a level that we need of people contributing to lift the program up, so that financially we can take the steps we need to take to be a football program that's fighting for championships. And I think that thought process is like, oh, that's a good reason to give it. But also giving it because you want to stay in it. I think when folks commit and they say, yes, I'm going to, I'm going to give this X amount. I want that to happen, but here's the things I care about. And that's something we can work with, and we want to work with, and we want our guys to feel that they have, I don't want to say bought in, because they've already bought in with their bodies, and they've given a certain amount, but the way to make it a level for what's coming up, what football is now, what the locker room needs to be, what our players need to be, what we have, making sure we have top helmets on their heads to protect them, and other equipment, and the way we travel, and the way we feed them. That's in college football now. That's brought up by the outside, and we're at a point where guys are already helping, but there's a lot of football guys who will be like, yeah, maybe I can help them, have a little extra, to get to that step. Yeah. But it's tough, and we ask guys to help us the same way that, you're going to play football. You better be ready for training camp, and if you're going to help the program, it's tough. But in spending time with folks and seeing them again is where I'm at right now is pretty awesome. And it would be awesome regardless, but I think I have a little bit of another level of what a commitment.
Yeah. Great. So, Coach, thanks for sharing a bit about your story with us and how the last few months have been for you. Do you have a status update on where you are with everything? What's been happening lately? What's coming up in the next few months?
Right, and it's, I do. I think I'm doing well. And I say I think because it's, I have to go back regularly. I have to go back once a month to get checked, and then every 2 months I'm getting another MRI just to make sure that there's no growth. And so far so good. That's been something that is going well. It's the way I'm responding to what Duke has done with me and the way they're working with it. And I don't mind saying their name, but I do think that it's not just down there, the people that are helping me, and it's even the surgeon who operated to take it out. One of his last comments as he's leaving the room is like, "Oh, Coach, you need to lose some weight," And I thought, "Oh man, that's not what I wanted to hear." And I have done that, and they've helped me look at what food would help me do that, as well as make sure it's not promoting the cancer that they removed. I think that it's been such a process of going through that and taking the next steps from a great place, a great hospital. But again, having the connection to people who are into it and are watching the way I'm getting ready to keep going back to work. And it's like I say back to work, but it's coaching football, and I love it, and I love being around these guys and watching them take the next step. And that, I don't know how to say how wonderful it is to see their commitment and to know how hard they worked when I was missing a lot of practices and getting treated and doing all that. But I'm at a point where I think I'm doing great, but I'm going to continue to have to get checked because the status, this level of cancer in the brain doesn't just automatically go away. And I don't mind saying, that 95% of the people who get diagnosed at my level don't live past 18 months. But there's a bunch of people that do. And if I don't, then I'm glad that my relationship with Jesus has grown, and to know that from guys. And if I do, I know it's my relationship with Jesus has grown, and so that's where I'm at. And I feel great. The clinical trial that I'm in, that they have me pushing, is I was the 4th person at Duke to get it. And, there was funny stuff with it. I had to take a special medicine before I would go down and get my radiation and my chemo. And I had to ride a wheelchair down. They wouldn't, even though I could walk fine, I was doing this, I had to ride the wheelchair to not use any of the oxygen when I'd get in there. And so everybody would see me get wheeled through this one department downstairs, and then I'd go in and get my radiation and my chemo rolling, and then they'd be like, "Okay, Coach, you're good. Go ahead and walk out." And so I'd stand up and walk out, and I was a jerk a lot because I'd be like, "I'm cured," and I'd go walking out, and people see me. I got in a wheelchair and then walked out on my own. So, but that was my way of saying that I maybe I am cured. Maybe it's gone away. Maybe it's going to fight. But I'm certainly not going to stop trying and following what they're giving me and how I should do it. Just because it's something that I'm going to have to keep kicking the ball hard and trying to make those big field goals.
So, Coach, I think you have a big trip coming up. You want to talk about where you're going in the next couple of weeks and how that all transpired?
Well, it's amazing. A friend of mine who graduated Catholic year ahead of me, he'd prefer that I don't use his name, but he connected me to someone who is involved with Malta and their association. And, they've been around for a long time. It's 1,000 years or so. But what they're working on now is that they want to help people. And I got reached out to by someone who's involved is one of those nights. And then they reached out to me and said, "Would you be interested in going to Our Lady of Lourdes. And yes, yes, I would. And so they've committed to put me on a plane with some other patients that need that level of prayer. And so this happened quickly. It was over the winter I met them, and then wasn't sure how things would go. And then my wife and I recently got a call, and they said, okay, we're gonna fly you to France, and we're gonna get you to Our Lady of Malta, and you're gonna spend a few days over there. And I thought, man, I can't wait. And again, the crazy things of me finding out more about prayers and how we should live and who's lived before us. I found out just the other day from one of my brothers that before my mom was married, she spent a month almost in Malta helping get people to the water.
Wow.
And I hadn't really remembered that. And then I remember a miraculous medal that she gave me. And it had been in the water at Malta. So just hearing these things in my own head and moving forward has put me to a point where I'm so fired up to go. And again, I might just get wet at Malta and move ahead. But I want to turn to Mary and say thank you. Thank you for your son. Thank you for God. Thank you for listening to me. And I'm going to enjoy the fact that other people are going to help me get over there. And they're taking care of it for me. They're going to fly me. And it's something else to think about Lourdes and Mary and the folks that are helping me. So, I go back to that. And, that tiny football coach in me says that when you get team players who step up and help you take the step, you have to thank them and do it right. And this is more than that. It's more than that. And I can't wait to get to do it and then talk to people, especially the kids on our team, about what prayers are like and how true prayers are. And if I do get connected with our Lord out there in a different way, I won't be surprised. Yeah. I will not be surprised. I'll love it, but I won't be surprised.
So, Coach, I think we'll finish up here. We talked a bit about the Catholic U community, the football community. Your biggest supporters, I know personally, are your family. Is there anything you want to share about your wife or your kids over the last few months and how they've been obviously so supportive and helpful for you?
Yeah, it's been amazing. And my kids, they during the early parts of this, they were so involved and around. And my daughter's still in college. My other two sons are out working. But I think for me, like the biggest picture is my wife and how she is, has just put herself in so many spots to help me and to move me along, and her prayers for me too. And one of the other amazing is she left one position where she worked to then go out of the office and be on her own, and that was a year before this happened, so that she could be. Was in the hospital working on on her computer while I was getting worked on in other areas, but she was able to be there and be so much, and having her do that has been unbelievable to watch how she's jumped in and just said, okay, let's go. What do we need to do? And she is, the amazing thing is she's an 18-year breast cancer survivor, and she works hard, and she's had some ins and outs, and has really just done all that. And I think one of the funniest moments was, and it shouldn't be funny, but it does to us because of who we are. She was one evening, she looked at me and she said, she goes, I didn't think you'd get this, because I worked hard that I'd be around for this long after my cancer, and here you are getting cancer. And I laugh about it just because, what do you say? Like, yeah, sorry. But in her moment, she's not afraid to share and talk about who she is. But in the meantime, she's been so bought in and so helpful to me. and you know, and I get to work with her in another relationship of our marriage and taking another step. But knowing her love for Jesus too, and going to church with her and being involved has been incredible. And so having her be the way she is and be like, okay, what's next? Let's go to work. Let's do it. And that's an attitude that partly I've added just because of that. Whereas normally I'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't handle this. And then I look at her, and she's already got 18 years in the bank on this. So I should be okay in that area. But I need, you know, I thank her for it. And she just looks at me and says, yeah, you know, I'm here for you. Good. And that's been incredible to have that relationship with her and watch her, you know, help me get to the next step. And my kids be, okay, Dad, let's go. And I mean, I've coached the football team hard, and it's a little different at home. But it's almost like they're ready to get me practicing to make sure I'm working hard enough to move ahead.
Huey, thank you, my friend.
That'll work.
Coach,
Yep.
thank you.
I appreciate it.
great.
I've talked about a lot of things that I don't normally talk about, you know, but it has been great to be able to share them with you guys.
Thank you
So
for
thank
sharing.
you.
You're a special man. And have fun on your trip.
Yeah,
It's going to be special.
it's going to be crazy. I know it, and I can't wait. Yep. I'd have to learn how to actually get the water and not, you know, they got to keep me from trying to dive into the pool or something. I don't know.
Awesome.